Right, mic test. And we're live. Right, mic test. Welcome, everyone. I want to welcome you to this brand new episode of the Proof of Concept podcast. That's the executive brief, IT and cybersecurity executive brief, that is. Today, I will talk to you about how to leverage artificial intelligence to improve your security posture. How do you improve the posture of your IT and cybersecurity operations using artificial intelligence? Well, there are a lot of things that can go into that, but the primary ingredient that you need is to understand the offerings of the technology that you're using. Different institutions use different information technology in cybersecurity stacks. Palo Alto, Fortinet, Cisco, Checkpoint, and even SonicWall, and others like Aruba, ClearPass, Aruba Instant, and plenty of other technologies are leveraged in different IT and cybersecurity environments to improve the security posture of the operation. Now, each one of these vendors provides a different flavor of artificial intelligence to achieve utmost security and to prevent network outages and to ensure that the institution is able to leverage the technology that it has paid for to conduct its businesses. You, as the Chief Information Security Officer, the Vice President, the Manager, the IT Manager, or the Cybersecurity Manager or Supervisor, you have the responsibility to ensure that you're getting all the juice that you can get out of the squeeze of your technology. How do you do that? That's what we're talking about today. I will start with one of my favorite technologies, which is Palo Alto, or one of my favorite vendors, Palo Alto. And I'll flash on the screen for you here what Palo Alto says about the evolution of artificial intelligence in the intersection of information technology and cybersecurity with AI. Here, Palo Alto is talking about their cloud management, how you can leverage the strata in the cloud. How can you manage the security appliances in the cloud and capitalize on the real-time telemetry that these security appliances can forward to the cloud to augment their security competencies or capabilities. Palo Alto predicts that in 2024, in 2025 that is, Palo Alto predicts that in 2025, 99% of the security breaches will be the result of misconfiguration. On average, Palo Alto knows that it costs $1.3 million for a significant outage. Most institutions used on average 45 different security tools in their IT or cybersecurity infrastructure. You already know that it has been advocated for quite a while that you manage platform as a service or platform in your information security stack. What does that mean? We're going to dive into that. But first, let's focus on artificial intelligence and how Palo Alto has leveraged that to provide you with advanced intelligence and advanced recommendation on your current security operation. The same telemetry that existed before, Palo Alto now uses that in what it calls the AI ops, artificial intelligence for information security operations. That's what it would be defined as. let's dive right in. I'm going to share my screen. To use the Palo Alto AI Ops, there are a couple things that you need. The primary thing that you really need here is to have Palo Alto Next Generation Firewalls, or Panorama. In fact, you don't need Panorama if you don't have Palo Alto Next Generation Firewalls. Now understand that Palo Alto is not the only firewall maker in the world. And understand as well that plenty of security vendors are offering the same thing that Palo Alto is offering. Think about Fortinet, the second best next generation firewall maker in the world. Think about Checkpoint, the third best next generation firewall vendor in the world, as classified by Gartner in the Gartner Magic Quadrant. Think about Cisco, with Cisco Firepower, fourth in line, and plenty of others that are moving towards next generation capabilities. Now, we have talked before about what next generation technology or what next generation firewalls stands for. What the difference is between a next generation firewall and a traditional stateful firewall. We're not going to go into the details of that, but on the surface, suffices it for me to say that a next generation firewall is one that gets better every day. A next generation firewall is a firewall that does not only live within the four walls of the data center or the four walls of the office. It is a firewall that expands beyond that is borderless, and a firewall that has augmented intelligence. What does that mean? That means that when the firewall is presented with a threat that it has never seen before, it has the capability to submit a sample of this threat to the cloud that it is connected to. In the case of a FortiGate, which is the firewall by Fortinet, it would be connected to the Fortinet cloud. In the case of a Palo Alto firewall, which is the Strata, it would be connected to the Palo Alto cloud. Now, when it is presented with the threat that it has never seen before, and it needs to know how to treat this threat and how to defend your environment against this threat, it would take a sample of this threat and forward it to the Palo Alto cloud. Now, the purpose of that is so that it can remain more intelligent. It gets better and better and better every day. When you have a next generation firewall, it can automatically receive threat intelligence from this cloud and other cloud. In the case of the Palo Alto, it would receive threat intelligence from Palo Alto cloud, but it can also receive threat intelligence from other threat intelligence sources. Now, a stateful firewall or a traditional stateful firewall such as an ASA is not able to do that. It is a finite piece of equipment. Think about when you had an old telephone box and when you have a smartphone. An old telephone box could only make phone calls, and it was one finite piece of equipment. You couldn't install an app on your old telephone. Now, on the next generation telephone, if they were called that way, or a smartphone for the terminology that's used for cellular phones, is a telephone that can get better every day. If today you want to listen to music on your telephone, you can download an app for that. If tomorrow you want to watch movies on your telephone, you can do that. If the day after you want to use your telephone as a tape measure, if you are a contractor, you can do that. A next generation firewall can do the same. It can expand as it is more intelligent than a traditional stateful firewall. When it comes to the firewall vendor that we are analyzing today, which is the Palo Alto firewall, it is important to understand that it is connected primarily with the Palo Alto cloud, but that's not the only cloud that it can be connected to. Now, it is also important. It is also important to know that this Palo Alto firewall that we're talking about today, as Palo Alto calls it, the Strata, is a firewall that has always been machine learning powered. And it is also a firewall that has always had the capability to forward telemetry to the Palo Alto cloud. Except today, this same telemetry is being used to augment your security operations using artificial intelligence. My friends, that's a big deal. And that's what we dive in today. Now let's go further. What is machine learning powered? What is a machine learning powered firewall? Palo Alto is the first of such kind. What does that mean? When machines speak languages, if you've ever seen a switch a command line interface. If you want, you can display all of the different events that are happening on the switch or on this router in real time. Everything that happens on a computing device is something that is recorded. These computing devices collect this as unstructured data and at times as structured data. The difference between structured and unstructured is that structured tends to be one that humans can understand, and unstructured tends to be very voluminous and very hard to comprehend and difficult to be processed by humans. Yet the structured data is one that you can take is one that you can take actions on. Now, machines speak unstructured data most of the time, but you can parse this unstructured data using big data processing engines such as Splunk and others. So when we talk about machine learning powered firewall or a machine learning powered firewall such as a Palo Alto firewall, what we essentially say here is that this is a firewall that listens to machine data, that collects machine data, that listens to machine language and uses that machine language for its security advantages. In the case of the Palo Alto, it listens to this machine data so that it can secure your IT and cybersecurity operation. Now, this machine data or machine language is one that can also be forwarded to the Palo Alto cloud. There, Palo Alto calls it telemetry. This telemetry, when it enters from the Palo Alto firewall to the Palo Alto cloud, a lot of things can happen to it. One of such thing is that it is augmented with artificial intelligence, specifically for your environment. What that means is that your firewall inside of your institution now forwards telemetry to the Palo Alto cloud. And the Palo Alto cloud takes that unique set of data that is only specific to your IT and cybersecurity operation, and it now parses that data, and it augments this data with its own artificial intelligence. The result is nothing short of genius. You have actionable items, actionable data from this unstructured data that your next generation firewall forwarded to the Palo Alto cloud. And now your administrators, engineers, and architects can take real-time actions on threats that your environment is exposed to. They can be advised by this Palo Alto artificial intelligence on how to best position themselves to be more defensive against emerging threats. Let's dive into this as I show you the Palo Alto AI ops or Palo Alto artificial intelligence operations in my environment. And the catalyst for this conversation, or the precursor for this conversation, is that Palo Alto believes that in 2025, 99% of the security breaches will be caused by misconfiguration. And on average today, every security breach costs about $1.3 million. And most institutions have about 45 different IT and cybersecurity tools in their environment. How do you reconcile all of these? This is where the AI ops, the Palo Alto AI ops, comes into play. This is how it is presented to you. On the Palo Alto cloud, you can go to apps.paloaltonetworks.com. From there, you can see this AI ops for NGFWs. NGFW here stands for Next Generation Firewalls. There's a free version. You launch that. If you're a Palo Alto customer, you have access to that free of charge. And once you launch that, I'm going to show you the different advantages that you get from that. As a result of that, I think that it is nice. Let me transition to this new transition. As a result of the abilities for next generation firewall and other security devices to leverage artificial intelligence to augment their defensive capabilities, I think it is now time for chief information security officers and IT and cybersecurity leaders to introduce a new title. a new job role in the information technology and information security realm. And this new title, in my opinion, should be Best Practice Engineers. I believe you now need to have best practice. I believe now you need to have best practice engineers and architects in your IT and cybersecurity infrastructure if you are to leverage the capabilities of the artificial intelligence. I will tell you about why that is towards the end of this live session. But in a short, in summary, I can say it is necessary that you have a best practice engineer to ensure that this person is one who only focuses on ensuring that your environment is configured up to best practice. That is because this person doesn't have the time. For this person to be able to do that, they will have to be able to focus only on finding out what the flaws exist in your environment, in creating remediation strategies that will patch these holes and close these flaws. If someone is involved in the day-to-day operations of the institution, they won't be able to do that. If they're involved in architecting the future state of the institution, they won't be able to do that. You're going to want them to be able to focus only on best practice assessment and remediation strategies. Think about that. If you're an IT manager, a chief information security officer, a vice president of technology, you're going to want to think about adding a new job role in your environment, and this job role should be, for me, IT and cybersecurity best practice engineer or architect, based on the level of competency of that person. As we talk about the AI Ops today, Palo Alto AI Ops, this is how it is presented to you. I have my own tenant here. That is the Magna Cyber Academy tenant. That is where I teach people IT and cybersecurity. Now, when you have implemented this in your environment, a couple of things that you need to realize. As the leader of technology, you can quickly have a brief view of how your environment is doing. Think about this firewall that we have just added here. Well, it says that we are 99% good. The health score of this firewall is 99% good. Now, there are things that you can do. You can do on-demand best practices on this firewall, right? And I have done one on-demand best practice. I'm going to see if I can bring it up on this screen here. It's on another screen. In this on-demand best practice will give you an idea about what the Palo Alto AI Ops can do for you. Not just an idea. It will show you very concretely what this can do for you. Okay, so you as the leader of the institution, or the IT and cybersecurity institution, operation of the institution, you're not going to be involved in the day-to-day of how this works, but you're going to want to have access to this, right? So that you can know what's happening in your environment. There are two ways that this can happen. It can happen automatically in that you configure the firewall to forward telemetry to the Palo Alto Cloud. And the Palo Alto Cloud will add that telemetry to your AI Ops and onboard your specific firewall to your AI Ops, and then give you actionable intelligence about your firewalls. It can be a number of firewalls. But how does this happen? Your engineers will take care of doing that for you. They'll have to enable telemetry here, and that would be for threat prevention, device health, and product usage. They'll have to have a certificate. That's an internal certificate that establishes the trust between your firewall and the Palo Alto Cloud. This certificate can be installed right here. If it wasn't installed before, I would have had the option to click install certificate or fetch for certificate here. I'd have to have a one-time passcode to put here, which I would generate on the Palo Alto Cloud. But that's not the job of the technology or cybersecurity leader. It's the job of the engineers. The technology leader, on the other hand, is in charge as it can be. Look at here. Because my firewall now is forwarding telemetry, I have a valid certificate. I can forward telemetry to the Palo Alto. I have AI Ops enabled, and my Palo Alto comes into my AI Ops tenant. I can see alerts now. If I click on alerts, this will alert me on things that it sees that are potentially wrong. The priority of this is P3, very high priority here. Look at that. On February 24th, it alerted me. Your current version of PenOS has known vulnerabilities. You want to know about that. As the leader of the IT and cybersecurity operation, you want to know that you have known vulnerabilities in your PenOS version. That was at 11:09. And I can click on alert name here, and I'll see more details. And it gives me details that I do not necessarily want to put here, but you can see that I have vulnerabilities in my environment, and I can see the CVE here. I can click on that and see the vulnerabilities that I have here. But more than that, I have other things that I can benefit from that. There's an on-demand best practice assessment. You can choose and say, hey, I want to see how my environment is configured. Am I going to be breached because of a misconfiguration? Understand that in 2025, more than 99% of the security breaches will be the result of misconfiguration. What do you do to find that out? You click on View Report. But to do that, you need to generate a best practice assessment first. Your engineers will be in charge of doing that for you. There's got to be a file that comes from the Palo Alto. You download this file and you bring this file into the on-demand best practice assessment. You click on View Report here, and this on-demand best practice assessment will give you the report of that assessment that was conducted based on the file that you downloaded from the Palo Alto and you uploaded into this assessment here. And this report will have multiple different segments. There's a summary that tells me that I have 29 rules that failed here. Very quickly, you can see how this is helping me ensure that my environment is configured as best as it can. I can click on security here, and I can see all of the different areas where I'm weak in security. Identity. And when you click on it, on one of those tabs up here, you have location, which can be shared, and you can be one for a basis. These are more technical things that an executive does not necessarily need to know. But essentially what that is you can have multiple virtual systems in the environment. And so this tells you, look in all of them. Category, you can have authentication rules, authentication profile. You see how in authentication rule, I didn't have any alert, yet in authentication profile, I have some alerts. In authentication portal, I have some alerts as well, right? So if I click on authentication profile and I click on one of these alerts here, what I see next is it tells me that the LDAP server profile contains only one LDAP server. Well, you may not really know what that means, but if you have engineers that are capable of understanding that, you can ask them, what does that mean here? Why is this giving us an alert? Right? Only one server is added to the LDAP server profile. So if the LDAP server fails or communication to the server fails, there is no backup server. Over here in the recommendation, it tells you what to do. It even tells you how much time it will take approximately to fix this problem. This says 5 minutes, this says an hour, this other says 2 hours. So you can continue to go through this best practice assessment. You can click on network and change category. If you don't see any alert here, change the category. If you go through all of the categories and there's no alert, then that's a good thing for you. And when I click on the network profile, I can see here that it says IPsec crypto profile. I have 2 failed checks, and it's telling me that the IPsec crypto profile does not use recommended something. I can expand that, drag this over here. It does not use recommended encryption algorithm. That's a real big deal, folks. That can cause you to get hacked, and you're going to want to have visibility on that. It gives you the recommendation right here. It gives you the NIST CSF segment that this can be mapped to. How long will it take for you to fix that? You see, this AI apps is a lifesaver for your IT or cybersecurity operations. The engineers can configure this and they can think, oh, we have configured this the best that we can. But when you have the artificial intelligence going after them and checking, did they do the best job that they could? Did they miss something? Now you suddenly have actionable intelligence that you as the executives can take actions on. Not for you to go and slam your engineers and architects and say, oh, you guys didn't do a good job. But more importantly, it is for you to be able to help them determine where they can do better, where they can improve, find opportunities for improvement. And that's how I would call this. Well, Palo Alto is leading the way when it comes to that. But Palo Alto is not the only technology vendor that is offering that. AI Ops comes for you for free if you're a Palo Alto customer. And that's a real big deal. But Fortinet has similar technology. Cisco has similar technology. And Checkpoint has similar technologies. And I will show you these other technologies in the days to come. AI Ops is a big deal. And if you are leveraging Palo Alto in your IT or cybersecurity infrastructure, I would recommend now that you do the following. Number one, that you ensure that as quickly as possible, your Palo Alto firewalls are forwarding telemetry to the Palo Alto cloud. Number two, that you have your engineers and architects activate AI Ops. Number three, that you go about finding a person that you can dedicate to monitoring these best practice assessments and ensuring that they come up with remediation strategies based on the recommendations of the Palo Alto AI Ops to improve your configuration. And you want to do that because you know that 99% of the security breaches will happen because of misconfiguration. And you also know that on average, it will cost you $1.3 million per cybersecurity incident. You don't want that to happen to you. You don't ever want that to happen to you. But more importantly, you don't want that to repeatedly happen to you. If that happens to you twice in a year, on average, you will spend $2.6 million. If that happens to you 3 times in a year, you will on average spend $3.9 million. That's close to $4 million. I don't know about you, but $4 million for me is a big chunk of change. And I don't want to lose that, right? And so because you know that your misconfiguration will likely be accountable for up to 99% of the times that you get breached, you're going to want to make sure that you are configured as best as you can. And AI Ops will do this automatic assessment for you and tell you where you have weaknesses. But more than the AI Ops, you can leverage as well the Palo Alto on-demand best practice assessment. That is, anytime you want, you can go to the Palo Alto firewalls. If you want to have visibility on any one of your Palo Alto firewalls, you can go to this firewall, download a file, and upload this file into your AI Ops best practice assessment, and it will give you a report like the one that I just showed you a few minutes ago. Now, I believe this is one of the best uses of artificial intelligence. And when you put that at the service of your IT and cybersecurity infrastructure, the result is genius. So I want to encourage everyone to leverage to leverage Palo Alto artificial intelligence operations or artificial intelligence for IT operations to ensure that your IT and cybersecurity operations are configured the best way that they can, and to minimize the likelihood of you getting breached due to misconfiguration. Folks, that was a special edition of the IT and cybersecurity proof of concept. I'll be back next Saturday at 11 a.m. to speak to you IT and cybersecurity executives about how you can improve your IT and cybersecurity infrastructure. Until then, I'm Jared Derival, and this is my proof of concept. See you next time.